The capture. In the vast expanse of the Andromeda Galaxy, the Xeraxian Empire stood as a beacon of advanced civilization. Its worlds glittered with cities that defied gravity, its people possessed technology that bordered on magic, and its influence stretched across countless star systems. At the heart of this empire was Princess Lyra, heir to the Xeraxian throne and a figure of both admiration and controversy. Lyra stood at the viewing port of her personal starship, the Celestial Whisper, her iridescent scales shimmering in the starlight. Her large, luminous eyes reflected the cosmos beyond, a tapestry of stars and nebulae that had long since lost their wonder to her. She sighed, a sound that carried the weight of eons of boredom. "Your Highness," a voice chirped from behind her. "We've entered the uncharted sector as you requested." Lyra turned to face her chief science officer, Zex. The diminutive alien's tentacles waved in nervous anticipation, a stark contrast to Lyra's regal composure. "Excellent," Lyra purred, her voice a melodic trill that belied her excitement. "Begin the scan for unique life forms. I want something special for my collection." Zek's eye stalks quivered. "Your Highness, I must again express my concern. This sector is outside our jurisdiction. If the High Council were to discover—" "The High Council," Lyra interrupted, her voice taking on a sharp edge, "is not here. I am, and I grow weary of the same predictable pets that populate our worlds. Find me something extraordinary, Zex, or perhaps I'll add you to my menagerie instead." The threat, though idle, had its desired effect. Zex scurried away, leaving Lyra alone with her thoughts and the endless void beyond. For centuries, Lyra had indulged in every luxury the Empire could offer. She had tasted delicacies from 1,000 worlds, worn garments woven from the dreams of psychic artisans, and surrounded herself with creatures from the farthest reaches of known space. But nothing could fill the emptiness that gnawed at her core. She craved something more, something that would challenge her, excite her, make her feel alive again. Little did she know, her wish was about to be granted in a way she could never have imagined. Light years away, on the edge of this uncharted sector, a lone ship drifted through the star-speckled darkness. Its hull, scarred and pitted from countless micrometeor impacts, bore the faded insignia of the Earth Expeditionary Force. Inside, Captain Jack Harper sat in the pilot's chair, his weathered face illuminated by the soft glow of holographic displays. "Status report, ARIA," Jack commanded, his voice gruff from disuse. The ship's A responded, her voice a soothing contralto. "All systems nominal, Captain. We are approximately 2.3 million light-years from Earth. Our long-range sensors are detecting unusual energy signatures in this sector." Jack leaned forward, his interest piqued. "Unusual how?" "The energy patterns do not match any known natural phenomena in our database. They appear to be artificial in origin, suggesting advanced technology." A grin spread across Jack's face, the first in months. Well, looks like we might have finally found what we've been looking for. Any signs of life?" "Negative, Captain. However, the energy signatures are consistent with faster-than-light propulsion systems. If there is life here, it is likely highly advanced." Jack nodded, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "All right, ARIA. Let's take it slow. Plot a course that'll bring us closer to the source of those signatures, but keep our approach vector unpredictable. I don't want to announce our presence just yet." As the ship changed course, Jack couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. He had left Earth 3 years ago, volunteering for a mission that many had deemed suicidal. The goal, to seek out intelligent life beyond the Milky Way. It was a journey of desperation, born from humanity's growing realization that they were alone in their home galaxy. Earth had united under a single banner, pooling its resources to launch a fleet of ships into the void. But one by one, those ships had fallen silent, lost to the unforgiving expanse of intergalactic space. Now, Jack's vessel, the Horizon, was the last hope for contact. He stood up, stretching muscles that had grown stiff from too many hours in the pilot's chair. The Horizon was a marvel of human engineering, designed to sustain a small crew for decades if necessary. But Jack had been alone for the past year, the rest of his team lost to a freak accident that still haunted his dreams. LOIA, run a full diagnostic on our stealth systems. I want us invisible to whatever's out there. Understood, Captain, initiating full spectrum analysis. As AOIA worked, Jack made his way to the ship's small galley. He poured himself a cup of synthetic coffee, grimacing at the taste. It was a poor substitute for the real thing, but it kept him alert. He was about to take another sip when the ship suddenly lurched, nearly causing him to spill the hot liquid. "Oh yeah, what's happening?" he shouted, already racing back to the bridge. The A's voice was calm, but there was an undercurrent of urgency. "Unknown energy field detected, Captain. It appears to be some form of tractor beam. Our engines are unable to break free." Jack threw himself into the pilot's chair, his hands flying over the controls. Evasive maneuvers, reroute all power to the engines. But it was too late. The Horizon was caught, like an insect in amber. Through the view screen, Jack saw a massive ship materialize, its hull gleaming with an otherworldly beauty. It dwarfed the Horizon, making humanity's most advanced vessel look like a child's toy in comparison. "My God," Jack whispered, awe and fear warring for dominance in his mind. As the Horizon was drawn inexorably towards the alien vessel, Jack made a decision. He reached for the emergency beacon, a device that would send a burst transmission towards Earth, carrying all the data they had collected. It was a long shot. The signal would take millions of years to reach its destination, but it was the only chance to ensure their discovery wouldn't be lost. Just as his finger hovered over the activation switch, the ship's systems went dark. The last thing Jack saw before losing consciousness was a brilliant flash of light, and then nothing. Princess Lyra could hardly contain her excitement as she strode towards the holding bay. Zex scurried alongside her, struggling to keep pace with her long strides. "Your Highness, preliminary scans indicate that the creature we've captured is unlike anything in our databases. Its biology is fascinating." Lyra's eyes sparkled with anticipation. "Is it dangerous?" Zex hesitated. We're not sure. Its ship contained weapons, but they're primitive compared to our technology. However, the creature's brain scans show a level of complexity that rivals our own. It may be more intelligent than we initially thought. "Excellent," Lyra purred. "A pet with a mind of its own. This should prove entertaining." They reached the holding bay, where a team of scientists and guards stood at attention. In the center of the room, suspended in a containment field, floated an unconscious figure. Jack's body rotated slowly, giving Lyra her first clear view of a human. She approached the field, her eyes wide with curiosity. "How strange," she murmured, taking in Jack's appearance. "No scales, no tentacles, just soft flesh and fur. Are you sure it's sentient?" One of the scientists stepped forward. "Quite sure, Your Highness. We've begun analyzing its language from the databanks of its ship. It calls itself human and comes from a planet called Earth." Lyra circled the containment field, studying Jack from every angle. "Wake it up," she commanded. "I want to see what it can do." The scientist hesitated. "Your Highness, we haven't finished our safety protocols." "I said, wake it up," Lyra repeated, her voice carrying an edge of steel. Reluctantly, a scientist complied. He manipulated a series of holographic controls, and the containment field pulsed with energy. Jack's eyes snapped open, his body tensing as he became aware of his surroundings. He found himself floating in midair, surrounded by creatures that could only be described as alien. Panic threatened to overwhelm him, but years of training kicked in. He forced himself to remain calm, to observe, to gather information. His eyes locked onto Lyra, recognizing her as the one in charge. She stood out from the others, her bearing regal and confident. Jack opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Lyra tilted her head, intrigued by Jack's reaction. "Can you understand me, creature?" she asked, her words translated by the ship's advanced systems. To everyone's surprise, Jack nodded. The universal translator he wore as part of his standard equipment was working, converting Lyra's alien speech into English. "I understand you," Jack said, his voice hoarse. "I am Captain Jack Harper of the Earth Expeditionary Force. We come in peace, seeking contact with intelligent life." A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. Lyra's eyes widened with delight. "It speaks, and with such interesting words. Tell me, Jack Harper, what is this peace you speak of? And why have you come so far from your world?" Jack's mind raced. He was in first contact situation, representing all of humanity to an advanced alien civilization. The fate of Earth could hang on his next words. "We come in peace," he repeated, choosing his words carefully. "It means we do not seek conflict. We have traveled for years, hoping to find others like us in the universe, to learn, to exchange knowledge, to forge friendships between worlds." Lyra laughed, a sound like tinkling crystals. "How charmingly primitive. You've traveled all this way for friendship." "No, my dear Jack Harper. You're here because I wished for an interesting new pet, and the universe has granted my desire." Jack's blood ran cold at her words. "Pet? I'm not a pet. I'm a sentient being, representing a civilization of billions." "We." "Hush now," Lyra interrupted, waving a hand dismissively. "You'll have plenty of time to entertain me with stories of your little world. For now, I think it's time we made you more comfortable." She turned to the scientists. "Prepare a suitable habitat for our new guest. Something that mimics its natural environment. I want it to feel at home." As the aliens bustled to comply with Lyra's orders, Jack's mind whirled with implications. He had found intelligent life, yes, but not the peaceful exchange he had hoped for. Instead, he found himself a captive, a curiosity, a pet. But as he watched Lyra, saw the casual arrogance with which she commanded her subordinates, a spark of defiance ignited within him. He was a representative of humanity, the culmination of millions of years of evolution and thousands of years of civilization. He had not come this far to be someone's plaything. As the containment field began to move him towards his new habitat, Jack made a silent vow. He would find a way to communicate with these aliens, to make them understand that humanity was not to be underestimated. And somehow, some way, he would find a path to freedom, not just for himself, but for the billions of souls back on Earth who were counting on him. The game was on, and Jack Harper, the last hope of humanity, was ready to play. Clash of Worlds. As the alien sun cast its eerie purple glow through the transparent walls of his habitat, Jack Harper paced restlessly. It had been 3 Earth days since his capture, though time felt distorted in this strange new world. His home was a meticulously crafted replica of what the aliens believed to be a typical Earth environment, based on data from the Horizon's computers. The result was a bizarre mishmash of different Earth biomes, a small patch of rainforest butted up against an Arctic tundra, while a miniature desert, complete with cacti, sat incongruously next to a bubbling freshwater stream. "Quantum-locked prison," Jack muttered, running his hand along the invisible barrier that kept him contained. Despite its apparent transparency, the wall was impenetrable, likely utilizing some form of advanced force field technology. A melodic chime announced the arrival of his captor. Princess Lyra glided into view, her iridescent scales shimmering with an almost hypnotic quality. Behind her, a hovering drone carried a tray of what Jack assumed was meant to be food. "Good morning, my fascinating pet," Lyra trilled, her alien features arranged in what Jack had come to recognize as a smile. "I trust you found your accommodations satisfactory." Jack squared his shoulders, meeting her gaze with defiance. "I'm not your pet, princess. I'm a sentient being, an explorer, and a representative of Earth. This imprisonment is a violation of galactic rights." Lyra's laughter tinkled like breaking glass. "Oh, Jack, you speak of galactic rights as if your primitive species has any standing in the cosmos. But come, I've brought you sustenance. Today's meal is a delicacy from the methane swamps of Xylox Prime. I'm told it's simply divine." The drone deposited the tray, and Jack eyed the writhing, tentacled mass with a mixture of disgust and resignation. His stomach growled traitorously. "I don't suppose you have a cheeseburger in that fancy ship of yours," he quipped, trying to mask his discomfort with humor. Lyra's head tilted in curiosity. "Cheese, burger, is this some form of Earth nutrition? Perhaps we can synthesize it for you. I do want you healthy and strong for the upcoming Zen Olympics." Jack's eyebrows shot up. "Zen Olympics? What are you talking about?" Lyra's eyes gleamed with excitement. It's the most anticipated event in the galaxy. Beings from all corners of the Empire bring their most prized exotic pets to compete in a series of challenges. You, my dear Jack, will be my entry this year. With your unique abilities, we're sure to take the Cosmic Cup. The absurdity of the situation hit Jack like a tidal wave. Here he was, millions of light years from home, being groomed to participate in some intergalactic pet show. It was almost enough to make him laugh, if the stakes weren't so high. "Listen, Princess," Jack said, his voice taking on a tone of urgency. "I'm not here to compete in your games. I'm an explorer, a scientist. My people sent me to make contact with advanced civilizations, to learn and grow. We have so much we could share with each other." Lyra's expression shifted, a flicker of genuine interest crossing her alien features. "Share? What could your species possibly have that would interest us? We are the Xeraxian Empire, masters of 1,000 worlds. Our technology is beyond your comprehension." Jack saw an opening and seized it. "Maybe so, but technology isn't everything. Humans have something unique, something that's helped us survive against impossible odds. We call it creativity, innovation, thinking outside the box. It's why I'm out here, millions of light years from home, instead of staying safe on my own world." He gestured to the mishmashed habitat around him. "Look at this place. It's a hodgepodge of Earth environments that don't make sense together. But do you know what a human would do in this situation? We'd adapt. We'd find a way to make it work, to thrive even in this artificial ecosystem. That's what makes us special." Lyra's eyes narrowed, a mix of skepticism and curiosity in her gaze. "Intriguing. You claim your species possesses some unique quality, yet I see no evidence of advanced technology or extraordinary abilities. Perhaps a demonstration is in order." She waved a hand, and suddenly, the habitat's environment began to shift. The temperature plummeted, and snow began to fall from hidden vents in the ceiling. Within minutes, Jack's entire enclosure was transformed into a winter wonderland. "Let's see this adaptability in action," Lyra challenged. "Survive in this harsh climate, with nothing but your wits and what you can find in your habitat. Impress me, Jack Harper, and perhaps I'll consider your words more carefully." As Lyra turned to leave, Jack called out, "Wait, what about food? Water?" The alien princess paused, looking back with a mischievous glint in her multifaceted eyes. "Why, Jack? I thought humans were so adaptable. Surely you can figure it out. You have one planetary rotation. Survive, and we'll talk more about this creativity of yours." With that, she was gone, leaving Jack alone in the rapidly freezing habitat. "Well, shit," Jack muttered, already feeling the bite of the cold through his thin clothing. But as he surveyed his surroundings, his mind began to race. This was a challenge, yes, but it was also an opportunity. A chance to show these aliens what humans were really capable of. "All right, Harper," he said to himself, rubbing his hands together for warmth. "Time to show the galaxy what Earth ingenuity looks like." Over the next several hours, Jack's habitat became a flurry of activity. He tore strips of bark from the trees in the rainforest section, weaving them into crude but effective insulation for his clothing. He gathered cacti from the desert area, carefully extracting their water-rich flesh for hydration. Using rocks from the stream and dried vegetation, he constructed a primitive but functional solar still, providing him with a steady supply of fresh water despite the freezing temperatures. For shelter, Jack created an igloo-like structure using packed snow, incorporating techniques he'd learned during survival training back on Earth. Inside, he used the bioluminescent plants from the rainforest to create a soft, steady light source. As the artificial night fell, Jack huddled in his shelter, tired but triumphant. He had not only survived, but had created a sustainable living space in this harsh environment. It wasn't pretty, and it certainly wasn't high-tech, but it worked. Unbeknownst to Jack, his every move had been observed. In her private chambers, Lyra watched the human with growing fascination. She had expected him to struggle, to beg for mercy as the cold set in. Instead, he had thrived, using materials in ways she never would have considered. "Remarkable," she murmured, her eyes fixed on the holographic display. "Perhaps there's more to these humans than I thought." As the first light of the artificial dawn broke over Jack's winter world, the habitat's door slid open. Lyra entered, her eyes wide as she took in the transformation of the space. "Impossible," she breathed, examining Jack's creations with a mixture of disbelief and admiration. Jack emerged from his igloo, looking tired but proud. "Good morning, Princess. Care for a tour of my winter retreat?" Lyra's composure faltered for a moment, genuine surprise etched on her alien features. You did all this? In one night? Without any technology?" Jack nodded, allowing himself a small smile. "Like I said, humans are adaptable. We've survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and countless other challenges on our world. A little artificial winter is nothing we can't handle." For the first time since his capture, Lyra looked at Jack not as a pet or a curiosity, but as a being worthy of respect. Perhaps I have been too hasty in my judgment of your species, Jack Harper. Tell me more about this Earth of yours. I find myself curious." As Jack began to speak, sharing stories of human history, of great triumphs and terrible mistakes, of art and music, and the indomitable human spirit, he felt a shift in the air. The barrier between captor and captive, between alien and human, began to blur. Unbeknownst to both Jack and Lyra, their conversation was being monitored. In a dark corner of the Zyraxian ship, shadowy figures watched with growing concern. The human was proving to be more than just another exotic pet. He was a wild card, a potential threat to the carefully maintained order of the Empire. "This cannot be allowed to continue," a voice hissed from the shadows. "The princess must be made to see reason, and if she cannot, then more drastic measures may be necessary." As Jack and Lyra continued their animated discussion, the seeds of change were being sown. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, all because of one human's refusal to be just another alien's pet. Cosmic convergence. The Zyraxian mothership hurtled through the void, its quantum engines humming with power beyond human comprehension. Inside, an unlikely alliance was forming, one that would shake the foundations of the galaxy. Jack Harper, the lone human explorer, stood shoulder to shoulder with Princess Lyra, their eyes fixed on a holographic display that filled the ship's command center. The image showed a massive, swirling vortex of dark energy, its tendrils reaching out across space like a cosmic kraken. "The Void Nexus," Lyra explained, her voice tinged with awe and fear. "An anomaly that threatens to devour entire star systems. It's heading straight for the heart of the Zyraxian Empire." Jack's mind raced, processing the implications. "And Earth? Is my home in danger?" Lyra's multifaceted eyes met his. "If the Nexus isn't stopped, no world will be safe. Not even your distant Earth." The past week had been a whirlwind of revelations and rapid change. Jack's display of human ingenuity had sparked a fierce curiosity in Lyra. She had released him from his habitat, granting him limited access to the ship and its vast database of knowledge. In return, Jack had shared everything he knew about Earth and humanity. But their budding friendship had been cut short by the emergence of the Void Nexus. Now, they faced a threat that neither human technology nor Xeraxian magic could easily overcome. "We need a plan," Jack said, his voice steady despite the enormity of the situation. "Something your scientists haven't thought of yet. A human perspective might be just what we need." Lyra nodded, her scales shimmering with nervous energy. The High Council is paralyzed with indecision. They've never faced a threat like this before. "Jack, if you have any ideas, now's the time." Jack stepped closer to the hologram, his eyes narrowing as he studied the swirling chaos. "Tell me about the Nexus. What do we know about its composition, its behavior?" A Xeraxian scientist, Zex, scuttled forward on multiple legs. "The Nexus appears to be a convergence of dark matter and antimatter, creating a self-sustaining reaction that consumes everything in its path. Our weapons are useless against it." Jack's lips curved into a smile. "Maybe that's our answer. We don't fight it, we feed it." Lyra's head tilted in confusion. "Feed it? Jack, the Nexus is already consuming entire worlds. How could feeding it possibly help?" "Quantum entanglement," Jack said, his eyes lighting up with excitement. "Your ships use it for faster-than-light communication, right? What if we could entangle the Nexus with something else? Something that would disrupt its structure from within?" The assembled Xeraxians murmured among themselves, a mix of skepticism and intrigue in their alien voices. Zex stepped forward, his eye stalks quivering. "It's possible, but we'd need an enormous amount of energy to entangle something as massive as the Nexus. And what would we entangle it with?" Jack's grin widened. "That's where human creativity comes in. We don't think in straight lines, we think in loops and spirals. What if we entangled the Nexus with itself?" A hush fell over the command center. Lyra's eyes widened in realization. A temporal paradox loop. "Jack, that's brilliant and insane." "Exactly," Jack nodded. "We use your quantum technology to create a time loop within the Nexus. It'll try to consume itself, creating a feedback loop that should cause it to collapse." Zex's tentacles waved in agitation. "The energy requirements would be astronomical. We'd need to siphon power from a dying star to even attempt such a feat." Lyra straightened, her regal bearing returning. "Then that's what we'll do. Zex, plot a course for the nearest red giant. We're going star diving." As the ship's crew scrambled to comply, Jack felt a surge of pride. This was why he had left Earth, to face the unknown, to push the boundaries of what was possible. And now, millions of light years from home, he was doing just that. The journey to the dying star was tense, filled with frantic preparations and last-minute calculations. Jack worked alongside the Xeraxian scientists, his human perspective providing insights that their highly structured minds had overlooked. As they approached the massive red giant, its bloated form filling the view screen, Jack felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to see Lyra, her expression sullen. "Jack," she said softly, "I need to apologize. When we first met, I saw he was nothing more than an interesting pet. I was wrong. You've proven that humans are not only our equals, but in many ways, our superiors. Your adaptability, your creativity, they're unlike anything I've seen in my travels across the galaxy." Jack smiled, placing his hand over hers. "We're not superior, Lyra, just different. That's the beauty of the universe. Infinite diversity, infinite possibilities. Together, we're stronger than we could ever be apart." Their moment was interrupted by Zex's urgent voice. "Your Highness, we're in position. The star's corona is interfacing with our quantum siphons. We're ready to begin." Lyra squeezed Jack's shoulder once more before turning to face the view screen. "Initiate the entanglement sequence. Let's rewrite the laws of physics." What followed was a cosmic dance of unimaginable proportions. The ship's quantum engines roared to life, channeling the dying star's energy into a focused beam. As they approached the void nexus, Jack felt reality itself begin to warp around them. "Now," he shouted, and Lyra gave the command. A burst of energy unlike anything Jack had ever seen erupted from the ship, engulfing the nexus in a web of quantum entanglement. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly at first, but with increasing speed, the nexus began to twist in on itself, its tendrils coiling and uncoiling in impossible patterns. "It's working," Zex exclaimed, his eye stalks dancing with excitement. "The nexus is collapsing." But their victory was short-lived. As the nexus imploded, it released a shockwave of temporal energy that threatened to tear the ship apart. "Brace for impact," Lyra shouted, grabbing onto Jack as the wave hit. The world dissolved into chaos. Jack felt himself stretched and compressed, his very atoms seeming to scatter across time and space. In that moment of cosmic flux, he saw glimpses of other realities, Earth as it might have been, Ziraxian worlds that never were, and futures yet to be written. When reality finally snapped back into focus, Jack found himself on the floor of the command center, Lyra's arms still wrapped protectively around him. Slowly, they stood, surveying the damage. The ship was battered but intact. Outside, where the void nexus had once loomed, there was nothing but empty space dotted with stars. "We did it," Jack breathed, hardly daring to believe it. Lyra nodded, her eyes shining with a mix of relief and wonder. "Yes, we did. Together." As the crew erupted in cheers and celebrations, Jack and Lyra shared a look of understanding. This was more than just a victory over a cosmic threat. It was the beginning of something new, a partnership between humanity and the Ziraxian Empire that could reshape the galaxy. "So," Jack said with a grin, "what's our next adventure?" Lyra's laughter rang out, a sound of pure joy that seemed to banish the last shadows of doubt. "Oh, Jack Harper, I have a feeling this is just the beginning. The universe is vast, and now, thanks to you, we have a whole new way of exploring it." As the Ziraxian ship set a course for new horizons, Jack felt a sense of anticipation unlike anything he'd ever known. He had come seeking first contact, and instead, he had found a new family, a new purpose, and a universe full of endless possibilities. The human pet had become a cosmic hero, and the story of Earth's first extraterrestrial alliance was about to be written across the stars. Quantum diplomacy. The Great Hall of the Ziraxian High Council hummed with an energy that transcended the physical realm. Holographic representatives from 1,000 worlds flickered in and out of existence. There forms a kaleidoscope of alien diversity. At the center of it all stood Jack Harper, the lone human in a sea of extraterrestrial beings, his presence a testament to the unprecedented events that had unfolded. Order. Order in the council. The booming voice of High Counselor Zix reverberated through the chamber, his crystalline body pulsing with each word. "We are here to discuss the integration of Earth into the galactic concordat. Never before has a species jumped from pre-FTL civilization to full member status in a single cycle. The ramifications are unsettling." Jack stepped forward, his newly designed smart suit, a gift from Lyra, adapting to the various atmospheric conditions in the room. He took a deep breath, acutely aware that the fate of humanity rested on his next words. "Esteemed members of the High Council," Jack began, his voice steady and clear. "I stand before you not just as a representative of Earth, but as a bridge between two great civilizations. The union of human ingenuity and Ziraxian technology has already saved countless lives from the Void Nexus. Imagine what we could accomplish together on a galactic scale." A murmur rippled through the assembly. A holographic figure resembling a sentient gas cloud pulsed forward. "And what of the Prime Directive? Earth was to be quarantined for another millennium. Their inclusion violates our most sacred laws." Princess Lyra, standing beside Jack, raised her hand for silence. The Prime Directive was established to protect developing civilizations from exploitation, but Jack and his crew sought us out. They crossed the intergalactic void of their own volition. Surely, this demonstrates their readiness. The debate raged on, with arguments for and against Earth's inclusion growing more heated. Jack listened intently, his mind racing to find a solution that would satisfy all parties. Suddenly, an idea struck him, one so audacious it just might work. "If I may," Jack interjected, causing a hush to fall over the chamber. "I propose a compromise. A quantum cultural exchange." High Counselor Zick's crystalline form shimmered with interest. "Explain, human." Jack grinned, feeling the familiar rush of adrenaline that came with pushing the boundaries of the possible. "We use your quantum entanglement technology to create a cultural bridge between Earth and the worlds of the Concordat. Not just communication, but a true melding of minds and experiences. Volunteers from both sides would have their consciousness quantum linked, allowing for instantaneous sharing of knowledge, memories, and skills across the galaxy." The council erupted in a cacophony of alien voices, some intrigued, others outraged. Laura looked at Jack with a mixture of admiration and concern. "Jack, do you realize what you're proposing? The level of intimacy, the potential for cultural shock." "I do." Jack nodded, his expression serious. "But it's the fastest way to bring Earth up to speed and prove our worth to the Concordat. I'll volunteer to be the first test subject myself." High Counselor Zix raised all four of his appendages for silence. "This is unprecedented. But then again, so is much of what has transpired since your arrival, Jack Harper. We will put it to a vote." The next few moments were tense as the council members cast their votes through neural interfaces. Jack held his breath, acutely aware that the future of Earth hung in the balance. Finally, Zix spoke. "By a narrow margin, the council approves the humans' proposal. The Quantum Cultural Exchange Program will commence immediately. May the cosmos have mercy on us all." As the council chamber emptied, Jack felt a wave of relief wash over him. But there was no time to celebrate. The real work was just beginning. Over the next few weeks, a flurry of activity consumed the Zilraxian mothership. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock to modify the quantum entanglement devices for neural interfacing. Jack underwent rigorous psychological evaluations to ensure he could withstand the mental strain of the link. Finally, the day of the first exchange arrived. Jack lay on a metallic platform, surrounded by humming machinery that defied his comprehension. Across from him, a Ziraxian volunteer named Axalith prepared for the link. Laura stood by Jack's side, her usual composure faltering slightly. "Are you sure about this, Jack? Once the link is established, there's no going back. You'll be changed forever." Jack reached out, squeezing her hand gently. "I'm sure. This is why I left Earth, to push the boundaries of human experience. Besides, someone's got to be the guinea pig." Before Lyra could respond, the machines whirred to life. Jack felt a tingling sensation at the base of his skull, and then consciousness exploded. Jack was no longer just Jack Harper, human explorer. He was Scarlith, hatched on a world of perpetual twilight. He felt the caress of solar winds on non-existent feathers, tasted the metallic tang of asteroid dust, and understood the complex harmonics of a language spoken in ultraviolet bursts. At the same time, Scarlith experienced the rush of adrenaline, the warmth of sunlight on human skin, the bittersweet pangs of homesickness for a blue planet millions of light-years away. Memories, skills, and emotions flowed back and forth across the quantum link, reshaping both minds in ways neither had anticipated. When the link was finally severed, Jack sat up gasping, his mind reeling from the experience. "That was indescribable," he managed to say, his voice hoarse. Zarlith, equally shaken, trilled in agreement. "I have seen the birth of stars through your eyes, Jack Harper, and I have felt the love you hold for your homeworld. Truly, humans are worthy of the Concordat." News of the successful exchange spread rapidly throughout the galaxy. Soon, volunteers from hundreds of worlds were lining up to participate. Earth, once a backwater planet on the edge of an unremarkable galaxy, became the focal point of a galactic renaissance. As the program expanded, Jack found himself at the center of a cultural revolution. He had linked with beings of pure energy, hive minds that spanned entire nebulae, and creatures that existed in dimensions beyond human comprehension. Each exchange left him fundamentally altered, his understanding of the universe expanding in ways he could never have imagined. But with this new understanding came new challenges. Some on Earth feared the changes the program was bringing, arguing that humanity was losing its identity in the face of cosmic assimilation. Others saw it as the key to solving Earth's most pressing problems, using the combined knowledge of 1,000,000 worlds to tackle issues like climate change, disease, and resource scarcity. As debates raged on Earth and across the Concordat, Jack stood as a living bridge between worlds. He had become more than just a human, more than an ambassador. He was a cosmic keystone, holding together a fragile alliance that promised to reshape the very fabric of galactic society. One evening, as Jack stood on the observation deck of the Zyraxian mothership, watching the swirling galaxies beyond, Lyra joined him. Her presence was a comfort, a constant in a universe of change. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked softly, agreeing to the exchange. Jack turned to her, his eyes reflecting the starlight. "Never. It's been challenging, overwhelming at times. But it's also been the most incredible journey imaginable. We're not just exploring space anymore, Lyra. We're exploring what it means to be conscious, to be alive in this vast, beautiful cosmos." Lyra nodded, her scales shimmering with emotion. "And what comes next, Jack Harper? What new frontiers will you push?" Jack smiled, a glimmer of his old roguish charm shining through the layers of cosmic wisdom he had acquired. "Well, Princess, I was thinking it might be time for you to experience the exchange yourself. After all, how can you truly understand your pet human without walking a mile in his shoes?" Lyra's laughter rang out, a sound that seemed to resonate with the very stars themselves. As they stood there, a human and an alien princess united by shared purpose and growing affection, the future stretched out before them, infinite, unknowable, and filled with boundless potential. The quantum cultural exchange had begun as a diplomatic gambit. It was fast becoming the greatest adventure in the history of sentient life. And Jack Harper, once a lone explorer from a primitive world, now stood at the forefront of a cosmic revolution that would reshape the very nature of existence itself. As the mothership set a course for new horizons, Jack felt a sense of excitement unlike anything he had ever known. The universe was vast, but with each exchange, each shared experience, it was becoming just a little bit smaller, a little more connected. And in that connection lay the promise of a future brighter than any single species could have imagined alone. The Singularity Crucible. The Zyraxian mothership, now christened Nexus Prime, hung in orbit around a pulsating quasar at the edge of known space. Its hull, once sleek and uniform, now bore the marks of 1,000 alien modifications, each a testament to the unprecedented collaboration between species that had occurred over the past year. Inside the ship's newly constructed convergence chamber, Jack Harper stood before a shimmering holographic display, his eyes darting across streams of data that would have been incomprehensible to him just months ago. The quantum cultural exchange had transformed him in ways he was still struggling to understand, his mind now a tapestry of alien memories and knowledge. "The Singularity Crucible is nearly ready," he announced to the assembled group of scientists and diplomats from across the galactic Concordat. "If our calculations are correct, this will be the next leap forward in our evolution as a united cosmic society." Princess Lyra, her form now augmented with biomechanical enhancements that allowed her to process information at near-light speeds, stepped forward. "Explain it again, Jack. The High Council is still hesitant about the potential consequences." Jack nodded, taking a deep breath. "The Singularity Crucible is the culmination of everything we've learned through the quantum cultural exchange. It's a device that will allow us to merge the collective consciousness of all participating species into a single unified intelligence, not just sharing memories or skills, but creating an entirely new form of existence." A holographic representative from the Hive Collective of Bataxis Prime buzzed with concern. "The risks are immeasurable. We could lose our individual identities, our very sense of self. Or we could transcend the limitations of our current forms," countered Sarlith, the Zyraxian who had been Jack's first exchange partner. Imagine the problems we could solve, the discoveries we could make, with the combined intellect of 1,000,000 worlds working in perfect harmony. The debate raged on, each species weighing the potential benefits against the unknowable risks. Jack listened intently, marveling at how far they had come. What had started as a diplomatic compromise had evolved into the potential next step in cosmic evolution. As the arguments reached a fever pitch, Jack raised his hand for silence. I understand the fears. Believe me, I do. A year ago, I was just a human explorer, in awe of the technology around me. Now, I stand here with the memories of 1,000 lives from across the galaxy. It's overwhelming, terrifying even, but it's also the most extraordinary experience of my existence. He paused, looking each delegate in the eye, or equivalent sensory organ. The singularity crucible isn't about losing ourselves. It's about finding a greater truth, a deeper connection to the cosmos and each other. I believe it's the next step in our collective journey. A murmur ran through the assembly. Slowly, heads nodded in agreement. Even the most hesitant delegates seemed swayed by Jack's words. Laura stepped forward, her biomechanical eyes glowing with determination. Then it's decided. We will activate the singularity crucible. May the wisdom of 1,000,000,000 stars guide us. The preparations that followed were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Trillions of beings across thousands of worlds prepared for the moment of convergence. The Nexus Prime became a hub of frenetic activity as final adjustments were made to the crucible. On the day of activation, Jack stood at the heart of the convergence chamber, surrounded by representatives from every member species of the Concordat. The air crackled with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Final systems check complete, Khalith announced, his tentacles dancing over holographic controls. The crucible is ready. Jack took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history on his shoulders. He turned to Lyra, who stood by his side, her hand intertwined with his. Together, he asked. Lyra nodded, a smile playing on her alien features. Together. As one, they reached out and activated the singularity crucible. The universe exploded. Jack felt his consciousness expand, merging with trillions of others. He was everywhere and everywhere at once. He saw the birth of stars and the death of galaxies. He felt the joy of a hatchling taking its first flight and the sorrow of a world consumed by its dying sun. Every experience, every piece of knowledge, every emotion from every being in the Concordat flowed through him. But it wasn't just a merging of minds. The singularity crucible tapped into something deeper, something fundamental to the fabric of reality itself. Jack, or the being that had once been Jack, began to perceive dimensions beyond the physical. Time became fluid, space malleable. The very laws of physics seemed to bend to the will of this new collective intelligence. And then, just as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. Jack found himself back in the convergence chamber, gasping for breath. But he wasn't alone. Every being in the room wore the same expression of awe and wonder. They had touched the infinite and returned, forever changed. Did it work? Someone asked, their voice trembling. Jack opened his mouth to respond, but instead of words, a holographic display sprang to life in the center of the room. It showed a map of the galaxy, but unlike anything they had seen before, new connections between stars lit up, showing faster-than-light corridors that had been invisible to them before. Regions of space-time that had been impenetrable were now clearly marked with safe passage routes. It worked. Jack breathed, his mind still reeling from the experience. But I don't think any of us understood what it truly was. Over the following days, reports flooded in from across the Concordat. The effects of the singularity crucible were far-reaching and profound. Species that had been on the brink of extinction suddenly found solutions to their planet's environmental crisis. Age-old conflicts between civilizations dissolved as each side gained perfect understanding of the other. Scientific breakthroughs that would have taken centuries happened overnight. But the most significant change was in how each individual now perceived the universe. While they retained their sense of self, there was also a constant underlying connection to the greater whole. It was as if every being in the Concordat now had one foot in the physical world and another in a higher dimension of pure consciousness. As the implications of their transformation became clear, Jack found himself once again addressing the galactic Concordat. But this time, it wasn't just diplomats and scientists in attendance. Every being in every world was tuned in, their minds linked across the vast distances of space. "We stand at a crossroads," Jack began, his words echoing across a million worlds. "We have touched the face of infinity and returned. We are no longer merely the sum of our parts, but something greater. The question now is, what do we do with this gift?" The response came not in words, but in a collective surge of emotion and intent. Jack felt the will of trillions flow through him, a unified purpose that transcended language. Exploration, discovery, creation. The singularity crucible had not been an end, but a beginning. The Concordat, once bound by the limitations of physical space and linear time, was now free to explore not just the universe, but the very nature of reality itself. As the assembly concluded, Jack found Lyra waiting for him. Her eyes, now windows to dimensions beyond human comprehension, sparkled with excitement. "Ready for our next adventure?" she asked, extending her hand. Jack grinned, feeling the thrill of infinite possibilities coursing through him. "Always," he replied, taking her hand. Together, they stepped into a portal of pure energy, ready to explore realms beyond imagination. The human pet had become more than a hero, more than an ambassador. He was now a pioneer on the frontier of existence itself, leading a unified galaxy into a future limited only by the bounds of collective imagination. As they vanished into the unknown, the stars themselves seemed to pulse with anticipation. The age of separation was over. The cosmic dance of unity had begun. The multiversal nexus. The cosmic tapestry shimmered, reality itself bending as Jack Harper and Princess Lyra emerged from the quantum foam. They stood on what appeared to be a platform of pure light, suspended in a kaleidoscope of intersecting dimensions. Around them, the very fabric of existence pulsed with potentiality. "Welcome to the multiversal nexus," a voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. A being of pure energy coalesced before them, its form constantly shifting between humanoid, alien, and abstract geometric patterns. "I am the architect, or at least, that's what your limited perceptions interpret me as." Jack, his mind still reeling from the singularity crucible's effects, stepped forward. "We've come seeking answers. Our unified consciousness has opened doors we never knew existed, but we need guidance." The architect's form rippled with what might have been amusement. "Answers? Oh, young ones, you haven't even begun to ask the right questions." With a wave of its ephemeral hand, the space around them exploded into a panorama of alternate realities. Jack saw countless versions of Earth, some thriving utopias, others post-apocalyptic wastelands. He witnessed timelines where the Xeraxian Empire never rose to power, where humanity became the dominant force in the galaxy, and where life itself took forms beyond comprehension. "Behold the multiverse," the architect intoned. "Each reality a reflection of choices made and unmade. Your singularity crucible was but the first step on a journey of cosmic awakening." Lyra, her biomechanical enhancements struggling to process the influx of multidimensional data, gripped Jack's hand tightly. "What does this mean for us, for the Concordat?" The architect's form solidified slightly, taking on a more Xeraxian appearance. "It means, dear princess, that your responsibilities have expanded beyond your wildest imaginings. The Concordat is no longer merely a galactic alliance. It is now the linchpin in the stability of the multiverse itself." Jack's mind raced with the implications. "Are you saying our actions affect all these realities?" "More than that," the architect replied. "Your unified consciousness has created a quantum entanglement across dimensional barriers. The Concordat now stands as a bulwark against cosmic entropy, a force for creation in a multiverse teetering on the brink of heat death." The revelation hit Jack like a supernova. What had started as a diplomatic mission to save Earth had evolved into something far greater. They weren't just explorers or even guardians of a single galaxy. They were now custodians of reality itself. "But we're not ready for this," Lyra protested, her voice tinged with awe and fear. "We've only just begun to understand our place in one universe, let alone infinite realities." The architect's form shimmered with what might have been sympathy. "Ready or not, the mantle has fallen to you. But fear not, for you are not alone in this endeavor." With another gesture, new figures appeared on the platform of light. Jack recognized some of them, alternate versions of himself, Lyra, and other members of the Concordat. But there were also beings of indescribable alienness, entities that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. "Behold the Multiversal Council," the architect announced. "Beings from across the infinite realities who have achieved similar levels of cosmic awareness. They will be your guides, your allies, and when necessary, your challengers." A version of Jack, older and bearing scars from unimaginable battles, stepped forward. "We've been waiting for you," he said, his voice carrying the weight of eons. "The path ahead is fraught with dangers beyond your current understanding, but it also holds wonders that will reshape your very concept of existence." Lyra, her royal composure returning, straightened her posture. "What must we do?" The architect's form expanded, encompassing the entire nexus. "You must learn, grow, evolve." The singularity crucible was but the first test. Now, you must forge the multiversal Concordat, an alliance that spans not just space and time, but the very boundaries of reality. Jack felt a surge of determination. This was why he had left Earth, why he had pushed the boundaries of human experience. "Where do we start?" The elder Jack smiled, a glimmer of his former roguish charms shining through. "With the trials of transcendence, a series of challenges that will push your unified consciousness to its limits and beyond." The architect nodded, its form beginning to fade. "Prepare yourselves, custodians of the cosmos. The fate of all realities now rests in your hands." As the multiversal nexus dissolved around them, Jack and Lyra found themselves back on the Nexus Prime. But it was no longer just a ship. It had become a hub of multiversal activity, a nexus point where realities converged and diverged. The crew, their consciousness expanded by the singularity crucible, stood ready for action. On the main view screen, a map of the multiverse pulsed with areas of instability, rifts in space-time that threatened to unravel the fabric of existence. Jack turned to Lyra, seeing in her eyes the same mix of fear and exhilaration he felt. "Well, Princess," he said with a grin, "still think I'm just a pet." Lyra laughed, the sound rippling across dimensional barriers. "Oh, Jack, you were never just anything. Now, let's save the multiverse." As the Nexus Prime prepared to embark on its first multiversal mission, Jack felt a sense of purpose unlike anything he'd ever known. They were no longer bound by the limits of a single universe. The entire multiverse was their playground, their responsibility, their home. The trials of transcendence awaited, each challenge promising to push them beyond the boundaries of what they thought possible. But Jack Harper, once a lone human explorer, now a multiversal guardian, was ready. With Lyra by his side and the combined knowledge of countless realities at his fingertips, he knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. As the ship engaged its reality-warping drives, preparing to plunge into the first rift, Jack gave the order that would echo across infinite dimensions. "Multiversal Concordat, let's make history in every reality." The adventure that began with a captured human and an alien princess had evolved into a saga of cosmic proportions. The multiverse trembled with anticipation, for the age of transcendence had begun. The Omega Paradigm. The Nexus Prime hurtled through the quantum foam, its reality-warping drives tearing holes in the fabric of existence. Inside, Jack Harper stood at the helm, his consciousness expanded to encompass multiple dimensions simultaneously. Beside him, Princess Lyra manipulated holographic controls that altered the very laws of physics around them. Quantum fluctuation detected in sector Omega 9, Salith announced, his tentacles dancing across a panel of pure energy. It's the final rift, the linchpin of multiversal stability. Jack nodded, his mind processing information from 1,000,000,000,000 alternate realities. This is it, team. The last of the trials of transcendence. If we seal this rift, we restore balance to the multiverse. As they approached the rift, a massive tear in space-time that pulsed with chaotic energy, alarms blared throughout the ship. Dimensional anomaly detected, Lyra shouted, her biomechanical eyes wide with shock. It's us. The view screen flickered, revealing a nightmarish version of the Nexus Prime. Its hull was twisted and corrupted, leaking dark matter and anti-time radiation. At its helm stood doppelgangers of Jack and Lyra, their forms warped by exposure to pure entropy. Well, the dark Jack's voice crackled through the comm system. Looks like we finally caught up with our goody two-shoes counterparts. Jack felt a chill run down his spine. Who are you? The corrupted Lyra laughed, a sound that sent ripples of dissonance across reality. We're you, of course, from a timeline where the singularity crucible went horribly wrong, where instead of transcendence, we achieved perfect entropy. And now, dark Jack grinned, his teeth like black holes. We're here to share our gift with every reality. The corrupted Nexus Prime opened fire, launching missiles that phased in and out of existence, threatening to unravel the very fabric of space-time. Evasive maneuvers, Jack ordered, his mind racing. Salith, activate the quantum shields. The ship shuddered as it narrowly avoided the temporal torpedoes. Jack knew they were outgunned. The dark Nexus Prime had the power to unmake reality itself. They needed a new strategy fast. Suddenly, inspiration struck. Lyra, the Omega paradigm, it's our only chance. Lyra's eyes widened in realization. The Omega paradigm was a theoretical construct they had discovered during their multiversal travels, a reset button for reality itself. But using it was incredibly risky. It could rewrite the entire multiverse, erasing everything they knew and loved. Jack, if we do this, there's no going back, Lyra warned. We could cease to exist. Jack met her gaze, seeing in her eyes the same determination he felt. If we don't, everything ceases to exist. It's a risk we have to take. As the corrupted Nexus Prime charged its reality-ending weapon, Jack and Lyra joined hands. Their consciousnesses merged, drawing upon the collective knowledge and power of the multiversal concordat. Initiating Omega paradigm, they spoke in unison, their voices resonating across dimensions. The ship's systems began to overload, channeling impossible amounts of energy. The space around them warped and twisted, timelines converging and diverging in a cosmic dance. The dark Jack and Lyra realized too late what was happening. No, you'll doom us all, they screamed, their forms beginning to disintegrate. As the Omega paradigm reached critical mass, Jack had a moment of perfect clarity. He saw the entirety of the multiverse laid out before him, every choice, every possibility, every potential future. And in that moment, he understood. It's not about erasing or rewriting, he said softly. It's about integration. With a final surge of will, Jack and Lyra directed the Omega paradigm not to reset reality, but to harmonize it. The corrupted timeline, along with countless others, began to merge with their own. The dark matter reactor of the evil Nexus Prime combined with their quantum drives, creating a new form of propulsion that could navigate the multiverse safely. As realities collided and reformed, Jack felt himself changing. He was no longer just Jack Harper, human explorer turned multiversal guardian. He was every version of himself across infinite timelines, good and bad, wise and foolish, all integrated into a single transcendent being. When the cosmic dust settled, the Nexus Prime emerged transformed. It was now a living ship, a sentient construct that existed simultaneously across all realities. The crew, too, had changed. They were singular entities, yet also collectives, embodying the full spectrum of their multiversal selves. Lyra, her form now a shifting amalgam of organic and energy states, turned to Jack. Did we succeed? Jack, his consciousness expanding to encompass the newborn omniverse, smiled. We did more than that. We evolved. As they surveyed their new reality, they saw that the multiversal rift had been healed. But more than that, the boundaries between dimensions had become permeable. The multiversal concordat was no longer just an alliance. It was a fundamental force of nature, maintaining balance across all of existence. So, what now? Khalif asked, his form flickering between various quantum states. Jack grinned, feeling the thrill of infinite possibilities. Now, we explore. We've unlocked the true nature of reality itself. Every adventure we've had up to this point was just the prologue. The real story is about to begin. As the Nexus Prime prepared to embark on its first journey through the transformed omniverse, Jack reflected on how far they'd come. From a human pet to a multiversal guardian to whatever he was now. The labels no longer mattered. What mattered was the journey ahead, the endless frontier of existence that awaited them. Attention all realities, Jack broadcast, his voice echoing across dimensions. This is the Nexus Prime. We are the multiversal concordat, guardians of the cosmic balance. Our mission is to explore, to learn, and to grow. To push the boundaries of what's possible, and to ensure that every sentient being, in every reality, has the chance to reach their full potential. As they set off into the unknown, Jack felt a sense of purpose unlike anything he'd ever known. The adventure that had begun with a captured human and an alien princess had blossomed into something beyond imagination. They were no longer bound by the limits of time, space, or even individual identity. They had become living embodiments of the cosmic dance, eternal explorers in an infinite reality. The omniverse stretched out before them, filled with wonders and challenges beyond comprehension. And at the heart of it all was a truth Jack had learned on his incredible journey. In the grand tapestry of existence, every thread is connected, every story matters, and the greatest adventure of all is the one we create together. As the Nexus Prime vanished into the quantum foam, ready to write the next chapter in the cosmic saga, one thing was certain: the story of the human pet turned omniversal guardian was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun.